Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Ultimate Human Experience Podcast. You already know who it is. It is your girl, Rashida, aka Righteous Sun. And on today's episode, we are talking all about unlocking your creative potential is a key to your well being. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share with family and friends and those who you feel will vibe with this message. With that being said, let's get into it. Welcome, Anna and Lauren. This is the first time that you guys are on the episode and on the podcast, actually. This is your first episode and you're on the Ultimate Human Experience Podcast. I hope you guys are doing well today. Before we begin, I obviously like to hand it over to each practitioner so that they can share their words and their offerings. And it's like better in your own words. So I'll begin with Anna. Please share your gifts and what you share through Hira and with the world.
Thank you, Rashida. So my name is Anna. I do go by AI Azucena, which is my initials, Anna Isabel. I'm an artist. I do go by the title of creative visionary and a synergistic facilitator. And what that really means is, I do create art, very much abstract art that's inspired by the spirit, inspired by sacred geometries, inspired by nature, and my ancestral roots. But I do facilitate and curate wellness workshops, which essentially combines art along with a mindfulness technique, which is visual meditation. There's always sound frequency involved. And my main purpose and goal with that is to intentionally remind people to pay attention to their five senses, channeling our inner child, have fun, get creative. We're all creators. And so through Hira, I'll be doing that, but as well as I'm now launching our one-on-one workshops and basically curating meditations and art specifically for one guest at a time. This is brand new. I'm really excited. That's something that I've been praying over for a long time. So, yeah, that's what I'm going to be offering. Mute.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Anna. I appreciate all of the gifts. Those are quite amazing. And it's really going to tie into what we're talking about today. And then we have Lauren. Hi, Lauren. How are you?
Hi, I'm so good. I can't wait to participate in your experiences that you just shared. And it's like all of us, I think, showing up with so many like different backgrounds and like how maybe we've gotten to this space of like supporting people through different modalities of healing is really exciting. And for me, also kind of came not from a place of art, but very similarly from the design world. So I was a designer for many, many years, and I found hypnosis in a time where I was really struggling to embody what it was that I could support people through, what I could show up for myself in a way that would like allow my mind, body, heart, intuition to really drive how I was showing up in the world. So now I'm a certified hypnotherapist, and beyond playing within your subconscious mind, a big part of what I realize is just that, like, it's not just, doing the mindset rewiring, it's allowing our entire being, our mind, our body, our heart, and intuition to come together so that we can, come up with what it is that we want to give ourselves permission to experience or to try or let go of, from a place of not what we think we should, but what is really coming from within. And much like the inner child work, for me, we work with it within your subconscious mind, but it can be like, I feel like so many of these modalities are so complementary, which is, I'm really excited to see how we might all even collaborate to bring experiences together through Hira. So I do a lot of group workshops, but what I'm really hoping to focus on with people working with me through Hira is through one-on-one sessions. And so I have a few different types of portals that I invite people to step into, anywhere from a traditional private session that's just over an hour long to an extended session where we're kind of playing together for 3 hours, not only through hypnosis, but looking at maybe some conscious strategy that would empower you to show up in the ways that your subconscious mind is inviting you to. And then also a 30-day portal where we can really do like a mix of strategy with my design background of, what would be good, getting out those brain dumps, and then connecting to our subconscious, our mind, body, heart, intuition, and then having that support throughout 30 days. And then feeling like at the end of those 30 days, we can come back together and really, like, people can feel like they have a lot more confidence and trust in themselves. And that's what my journey's been like, if anything, just like trusting in the uncertainty, not needing to find all the answers, but also knowing we get to access some of those answers too. So I'm excited to see what will come, and maybe what other ideas will come together that might be exclusively offered through here too. So it's exciting.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, both of you, for sharing your offerings and what it is that you bring in a unique way, which is beautiful. Like exactly what you said, Lauren, the complementary of both of your offerings together really touches on the five senses. And so when I think about the five senses, I think that's something that, as because I'm a mom, so I always go by like that with my children, is that they're able to, in the beginning, that's what all they have. So they rely on that so heavily. But then as they get older, you start to go into your mind, peers and society and all of that, and you slowly start to lose that. You lose it in the touch, in the smell, you lose it in the taste. When we eat our food, we're rushing to get to the next thing. We're not even savoring the food. And then I also think about, of course, social media. It gives you everything visually, like firsthand. It's really quick that, like, nowadays a lot of kids lose that creativity. I have a range of children, obviously, and the creativity is still there, but there's also moments where I have to encourage it. Like, if you're bored, create something, anything, rather than feeling like this instant gratification. And I feel like that is the way society is right now, but also something that is changing over time. So, my question is, what is your thought when it comes to the five senses, especially from your viewpoint as teachers and practitioners? And anybody, feel free. Anybody can share. We'll tag on each other.
I can kind of go. So if I may kind of describe, so when I got back into visual art, like painting, this was like back in 2015. Before that, I was doing graphic design full time. I realized I needed that touch and feel because I was going through a lot of pain inside, a lot of pain, a lot of anger, and I didn't even know where it was stemming from, and I didn't know what to do. I was putting myself in positions that were not the greatest, right? Relationships, friendships that were not the greatest. But I knew the feeling of painting and what it used to do for me. So I went back into that, and I was painting almost every night, like just abstract color, learning about color therapy. What does red mean? What does green mean? What does this mean? Right. And I was just like one of those crazy artists, just and but it was so healing because I literally just spent so much time here and on the canvas, releasing whatever it was. I cried a lot, I laughed a lot, I made fun of myself, and it made me see that, what was happening that I wasn't really ready to look at. That I was finally ready to look at, right? And it took a while, like 6 months of me doing that. And from there, I then was like, oh, this is really nice, like painting again. So I started actually intentionally creating pieces. Why am I choosing this color? Why does this texture matter? Why is it over on this side? And then it got me into a point where I started meditating. I would always pray, like I pray every night and every morning, but I started learning more about meditation and breathing and grounding. And I started combining that with my like before I would paint. And then I started burning incense. So now it's scent, right? And it was allowing me to focus, but also calm my nerves. And I don't know, like in that moment, like I think now it's like a year or two later, that's when I realized I need to be more intentional with my five senses. This is way before my daughter was even born, but it was very similarly like where it's like we're always like go go go, grab the phone, eating really quickly, what's the next thing? Oh my gosh, I was always rushing. And I realized in placing all those pieces intentionally helped me to slow down, really helped me to slow down. And it allowed me to really take in gratitude as well for where I was at and the self awareness. And I believe that that is what got me in the trajectory of where I am now and why it's so important. Our five senses, even music and conversations. Why are we doing that? Why are we saying this? So for me, like it is important. And then even when I think of my daughter now who's 5, right? Yeah, she's very creative. She'll pull anything, like she'll play with a box and make all these fancy things out of it. But now teaching her stillness and patience through scent and painting, right? It's very interesting, especially with the 5-year-old who just wants to run around and get everything done, like now, now, now. And it's like, no, no, no. We too, like, let's bring it down a little bit, right? Yeah, like that's how I feel about the five senses. And I'm always learning. I'm still learning, right? Like even down to eating, right? Taking time to absorb those tastes and the flavors that I cooked or I bought, right? And then now it ties back into the gratitude again, right? Like I'm so grateful for the food I'm eating, the scent. I'm grateful for the painting I just created to be able to even create, right? So yeah, it's been an interesting cycle now seeing it from like 2015 to now, but it's been healing for me. And I believe that is why I am where I am now and doing the workshops and now wanting to do the one-on-ones to show people like we need this, whether you're little or, you're young or you're a teenager, you're in your 40s or 50s, we all need it. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, so many layers to that. But I want to hear from Lauren because I know I'm going to feel like we're going to tie it all together.
Course.
Lauren,
Of
go
course
ahead.
we will. I think it was really cool just what AI mentioned about food. And that's something kind of like reverse engineering my journey to tap back into all my senses is what I'm really focusing on right now for myself is that mindful eating and thinking about, having had like struggled with some autoimmune issues and with health issues like for probably the last 5 years, not knowing what it was, not finding the answers, having like the piece of paper that said like you have this or this is what's wrong with you, or like getting something that would tell me what it is I thought I should know, has been kind of zooming to now like how important what it is we digest, like how it affects our body and the intentions that we tie them to, like just with my eating and even with my drinking. Like you'll see me like whispering into my water, like sending it love. And like with every kind of like meal that I make or even meal I consume, I have this kind of ritual now where it's like, I thank Mama Gaia. And then I kind of very quickly in my mind, without like specifically like saying in my mind, like all the different microorganisms and the farmers and the people who transported the food, and like how like now I get to bring it into my body and I get to feel nourished and like, oh, thank you, nutrients. Like I kind of just like take very like quickly in my mind, just like that acknowledgement, and then give that invitation to feel it in my body, because for a very long time I felt really kind of betrayed by my body and with my health. And it's something that, the signs were all there. My body was talking to me, but I wasn't listening to it. And so for me, that looked like years ago when I lived overseas, having really like uncomfortable health issues that, again, I wasn't able to find the answers. I ended up in hospital and it was, this emergency surgery. And then like, oh, you should be fine now, turning into like years of pain and just, yeah, not having the answers and realizing like, my body, what it needed most was me to listen to it and just acknowledge it and to really like spend time with it. So when I started doing hypnosis with this, or like with this desire to be successful in my business, still not addressing my health issues and like what my body needed, it very quickly, I had that container and that space to really realize like, okay, I need to not just listen to my mind and all the billion things that are swirling around in circles driving me like wild. And it was more about that listening to my body and connecting my body and my mind together. And then, okay, beyond that, like what is my intuition telling me? What are the messaging I do receive from my body that is like that intuitive knowing, right? And knowing that is my superpower to tap into, like all of us have so many different things that we receive information. And that was something I didn't really realize was my thing, like that inherent knowing and being able to show up from the heart and realize like I get to prioritize what it is that I'm feeling over the comfort of others. And how that is also, you know, whether it be through smelling things that like you're like, I don't know why that smells gross, or like, you know, and maybe it's not, maybe there's just something to you, like your body is telling you something. So I think, yeah, for me, it's definitely been being able to use those senses and like the information that they're receiving to actually give myself that permission to listen to what is coming in instead of just ignoring it at, you know, not wanting to be the person who's like difficult, or not wanting to be the person who's, you know, not well received because they're, you know, going against what everyone else is saying. So it's definitely been something that I developed in hypnosis. And like when we do a visualization, even though you're like playing within your subconscious mind, like, you know, I'm asking you, what is it you're seeing or smelling or feeling? And we tap into all those senses, whatever it is you're experiencing within the subconscious, whatever shows up for you. So it's definitely a big part, I think, of us all remembering, like, we get to, yeah, we get to use that wisdom and that information. And it's something I keep learning every day, because of course, as humans, we don't always listen to everything perfectly. And that's the whole point. But we're all, yeah, we're all just making it up and figuring it out, which is also fun.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I love everything that both of you said. I love how the theme seems like it's all about feeling. And that has come up a lot, I think, this year for so many people. Kind of makes sense to like the year of the snake. It is like shedding skin. So to me, it's we're going into what do things feel like? If I'm in relationships and it doesn't seem to be good, instead of bringing it up to my thoughts, it's like, how does it make me feel? And then I got to address that, it seems like. So I love, Anna, how you kept talking about being present in everything that you're doing and questioning, asking questions. It's because there are layers to it, right? Every layer you get to, then there's another like deeper layer that you can go to sort of figure it out and like have a conversation with it. So I appreciate that you shared that piece of being present and also not judging whatever it is that comes up, which then ties into Lauren and your hypnosis of, I believe, and I would love for maybe you could explain this more, is that when it comes to hypnosis, I think so many of us think it's of the mind. It's just that, right? But what you're sharing is that it's so much more of really tapping into a deeper part of your body and I believe like your mind, because you said your subconscious mind, and really tapping into the smells and the experience that comes with it. Like every little piece of what makes that in experience is what you're asking people to tap in with. And the only way to do that, of course, is to be present, right? So, my question then that comes out of this one is I noticed that even for myself, and I'm sure that everybody who is creative in whatever it is they do or that thing that they love, they go into what seems like this trance, right? Like I would say almost like a hypnosis because you're in the moment. So when you're creating art, or like for me, I love to dance. When I dance, I know I'm with spirit. Like I know when I'm dancing, I feel something different. And then when I stop, I come out of it and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm back. So, for both of you, this question then comes is first, how do you feel in those moments? And could you maybe like add on to what I've just said? This is opening up like a conversation of really talking about being in the zone and being present. And maybe not so much of what it looks like, but what does that feel like for other people who might be listening and might look at it like, okay, I get what they're saying, but I'm also new to this as well. And I sometimes can't even recognize those moments. Sometimes I think people do, but then I also feel like they want to cut it off because it's this feeling of excitement and fear of being in this moment. And I would hope that you guys can maybe just elaborate a little bit with both of your wisdom on where other people can go with this. I hope it made sense.
Yeah. Something, if I can go take this one first, is like, I love what you said about how those states of like flow, right? Or of being in a trance. And there's so many different mediums that give us that feeling. And like hypnosis is something that we actually experience like multiple times throughout our day, or in those moments, like you said, where we're like hyper focused and zoom in on something and we're not thinking about what we should do. We're just moving, or we're just painting, or we're just like experiencing, right? And so that's something that I think I had to learn too, even like as a hypnotherapist, from, learning about hypnosis and how to guide people into those states, to really now like embodying the like what that gift has given me, but also realizing, yes, it shows up in so many different ways. Like I hold space in a certain way and I guide people to relax their bodies, to connect with their subconscious minds, and probably definitely more body based and senses based than maybe some other hypnotherapists who are using more traditional modalities and who are just like acknowledging the subconscious mind. But it comes from also like my experience of, I am a hypnotherapist and I was doing hypnosis much before becoming certified in that. But I am not someone who visually sees a lot. And there's this misconception, I think, for a lot of people, is like, you should be able to visualize like a movie, right, in your mind. And for some people, they experience that. And I never did. Like, I always felt things in my body, and it allowed me access to not think about what I should be feeling or what I should want to share, and rather just like, what is my body telling me? So it's something that I enjoy working with people and saying, like, how you're going to experience this is very different. And in this container, it may be more of like, these sensations you're feeling in your body. It may be more sense, like smell based, or it may be this or that, or you might be seeing it like a movie. I don't know, but whatever it is, is fine. And to speak to like movement and dancing and painting and creating, like those are also all ways we get to like connect to our subconscious mind, and really allow ourselves to go beyond what it is we think we know, and be able to be in that place of like play and openness, like open heartedness, right? And just like not judging what it is, where we are, where it is we need to go. I can't even remember your original question.
I
So
know.
I
No, I
hope.
appreciate, no, I thank you. Thank you for sharing that. No, I totally get what you're saying. No, thank you. You know what it is? I'm always just like pulling every time I hear everything that you guys are saying, I'm making like notes because I'm like, wow, this is why I do what I do, because I get to hear it from somebody else, the way that their mind works. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. It just kind of opens up whatever is sitting in my brain when I'm hearing other people talk. So thank you, Lauren. You shed on a lot of that. I appreciate it. Anna, what about you?
Yeah, I first want to say thank you, Lauren, because like the hypnotherapy, I need to learn more about this. I feel like this is perfect. We're so aligned, and in ways, like I almost feel like I've learned to do this, or just doing it naturally. But then, you have, I don't know, the technicalities. I don't know what to call it. Like you just know, like the way you're describing it, I'm like, yes, this is it. This is exactly it, right? If I could describe a feeling, I would say freeing, very free flowing, like no cares in the world. It's almost like you don't even know what's around you anymore. Like you're just painting and just going at it. But it was interesting because I was thinking of when you said visualization or seeing things in your mind. I wanted to touch on like when I'm writing my visual meditations, it is to actually teach people how to see images in their mind, because not a lot of people can, right? Which I didn't know. It was a conversation I had with quite a few different people. But in the moment when I'm actually writing the meditation, I first have to pray about it and like, really like focus in. And for a couple of reasons, right? Like going inwards for like the wisdom, but also to like get the ego and the judgment out of my mind, because a lot of times even with painting I'm like overly judging myself. Can I, should I, why am I doing this? So once that's out the window, it's the writing just comes like crazy. It's like, it's, yeah, like pages I can go forever, and then I have to go back and then, okay, what am I removing, adjusting, right? And that's the same thing with painting. Like again, praying over it, okay, let's push this judgment aside. I'm starting to paint. And once you're in it, it's like everything's gone. And you're just like painting and painting and painting. And all of a sudden it's 4 hours later and you created something, right? Yeah, I would say freeing would be the word that I feel.
Thank you. Thank you so much. No, I love
Okay.
that. Now, my other question is, how do you tap into it? So I think sometimes people feel like it's this thing, right? A spark or something. And people say like they don't want to lose that spark. So I can say, like, for my son, for example, he likes to draw, and he had a moment where it was like called like writer's block, but it wasn't writer's block because it was just more like, Mom, I've been doing the same thing over and over. And for some reason today, I just can't get it right on the paper. And I was like, buddy, like sometimes that just happens where you'll just have this moment. But for him, it was more of like, it's a learning curve, but it was also something of like, is something wrong? Did I lose that thing that I had? And I'm like, no, maybe it's just a moment in time for you to elevate it, right? So my question is first, like, how do you tap into it? Or is there a tapping in that needs to happen? Maybe it's just something that we naturally do because it's a love of. And through that love, we either continue to follow it, it can become come to fruition to be something more, or it could just be that favorite hobby, that thing that you have to make, like it has to be scheduled in your life.
The first thing that kind of came up for me is how is the pressure we put on ourselves to feel like we need to like continuously perform to a certain level or something needs to look a certain way. Something that I've definitely like, and this is why a lot of my work and working with folks is around this idea of disrupting perfectionism, is that like every day like we get to show up differently, and if our energy isn't calling us in this direction, doesn't mean like it gets to be lost forever, but maybe today gets to look different, or maybe we get to try something else, or maybe we get to just rest, right? So there's, I think, a lot of invitations I've definitely had to give myself around that. Like I'll be in flow and I'm a big writer as well. I'll be like posting to my Substack like 5 days in a row, and then you won't hear from me for like 3 weeks. And I like had to give myself that permission to be like, okay, what is it like I get to show up for? And for me, that's like once a month, I do a monthly love letter. And whether that's on the first of the month or whether it's halfway through the month, one time I sent it out on the 18th, even though it was for the month before, like it still happened. But giving myself that space to just play and sit in that in between of like feeling inspired or feeling like I should hold space, or I should have a certain routine, was kind of like a big thing I had to disrupt for myself. And I work with a lot of writers as well around this, like people who maybe are writing a book, and they're putting something out there and they're like, I can't seem to get my writing process right. And so the first thing is like I ask them is like, do you like, what do you think it should look like? Do you really actually need to have that process? Like for me, I just dump stuff in my notes app and I come back to it when I come back to it. Sometimes I put it together. Sometimes I throw stuff into Chat GBT and say, like, make this make sense, because they're like those channeled thoughts that come through, and maybe I don't even know like how to make sense of them, or maybe I need to go out into the world and experience something for that thing to make sense. So just like being open, I guess, to play and having curiosity is that like invitation to stay curious, even if we're not producing or performing or actually creating something. Yeah, for me, it takes the pressure off of feeling like I have to, get it right every time. And, you hear this from, famous writers or from famous like songwriters or producers. And it's like, I made like probably 10 times more like junk than all these number one hits, right? So just knowing like, even if we're showing up to create something or scribble in our journal, like that's good enough. Like that is also worth being created, even if no one gets to see it, or maybe it's not the most profound something that someone's experienced.
Thank you so much, Lauren. Yeah, I do agree with you on that one for sure. I appreciate the no pressure, right? Of
Mm.
tapping in or needing to feel like you need to do that. What about you, Anna?
I was gonna say like literally the exact same, like the no pressure.
Mm.
And for me, I don't really like scheduling it in. Just if I feel it, I feel it, right? Yeah, like the no pressure is a huge one because I think at one point in time I was trying to like, okay, every Monday, every Wednesday, and it just that's when it became too hard, and the things weren't coming to me, or if it was, it just wasn't coming out the way I wanted it to, and I was like, no, this isn't for me. I love to doodle. I will doodle almost every day, but that doesn't mean it becomes anything. It's just like, it's fun for me to do that. And then, I think the other thing Lauren was saying was rest. Rest too is huge. Like I'll share at the end of 2024, I finally decided I'm like, you know what, I'm going to spend a whole week just painting. I hadn't had that chance in a long time, like months. So I put myself in my room and I just painted. I painted 3 pieces. I was just going, going, going. And then after that, I was like, I love this. I want to keep doing this. But no, I needed rest. Like a month. I hadn't touched a canvas after that for like a month. And I'm at that place of that's okay, actually. You don't need to always go back. You can wait 2 months or whatever it is, right? Yeah.
Those seasons, right? Of like just listening to what energy is coming up or what it is we, yeah, feel
What
like.
we need, our body needs, right? Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, then this one ties into everything that you guys just said, especially when we talk about like creativity and well-being. I like kids are amazing. They're like the young spirits that come here and we're just here to like be their earth guides. But honestly, like the school system doesn't have as much art as they used to unless you go to an art school. And even then you've got to put a whole portfolio together just to get in. Like kudos to those who can, but for some who might feel like, anxiety, nerves, or just overthinking, very limited to like what we used to have growing up. Like I remember having those, we still have it, but just it's not as prevalent where you get the instruments or you have that moment where you actually have an art class. Like it's very far and few between. But clearly, what we've been saying throughout this entire conversation is that it's absolutely very important. I mean, saying like it's pivotal for children to be able to connect with their body and not lose that connection. You know what I mean? Like you still grow and things happen, but to always know that you can tap back into that thing that makes you even realize that you are capable of something, right? Even like what you said when your 5 year old or like my 4 year old is putting something on the paper, like they're just happy that they were able to create something that was theirs. They're not looking at to what it looks like. They're just like, this is mine. I love the color blue. That is what's on the paper. So, what would you say in terms of like us as adults? How can we continue to support young children in any way, whether it's the ones that you know or even in community, to really help them always remember that when you create, it does something to your heart, does something to your soul? I see it here and there, but like, what would your thoughts be, Anna?
I would like to say, as adults, I think we need to start with us first. Because I think even like what you said right in the beginning too, we have that as children, and then as we get older, things happen, and we go through life, and then especially with our five senses, some things we stop, right, or we start judging ourselves, and the creativity might stop, right. And so I think one is starting with ourselves, remembering that we can play, doodle, write, don't be upset with it, just get messy. If we have nieces, nephews, or friends with little kids, like bring them along too. Like with Rain, my daughter, we create, I would say almost every other day. And when I say recreate, it's just literally paper or markers or painting. And it's sometimes just 15 minutes of just getting a little messy and then we might hang it on the wall for a little bit. But that allows me that release. And then it teaches her that not to judge herself as well. Right. And yeah, like I would say start with us. Cause I feel like even when I do my workshops, it's interesting. You would see, I've done workshops with from 5 years old to teenagers and then like our age. And you would see our age, we really struggle with perfectionism.
Mm,
Perfection, like I don't even want to start because I want it to already look perfect.
mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, starting with us and then getting the kids to come in as well, seeing us doing it. is key.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. Lauren?
Yeah. There's something about that too, of just as adults giving ourselves that space, like subconsciously, like through that mindset reprogramming, but also the act of doing that tells us that it is safe to just create, or it gets to, even if it's uncomfortable to start, like to really build that safety in our bodies, to know like it is safe to just create, or it is safe to not know what it is I'm going to paint first. And I, like, as soon as you said that, I can think of all the times I stopped myself from even trying something because I'm like, well, I
Mm.
don't know what I'm going to make yet, or I don't know, I don't have all the materials together. Like, I don't have all the things I would want. Right. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, when can I sign up for an online workshop with you where I just use whatever I have? Right. Because there can be that, like, so much of like, oh, I don't have all the right things yet. And that's definitely where, I started in my journey, and using hypnosis was like reparenting myself and doing a lot of that inner child healing. And the people I work with, we usually start with that inner child healing and getting to reparent that little child inside of us who didn't feel safe, who one day experienced something or some story from someone else that told them it wasn't safe to just create, or it wasn't safe to, not be focused on an outcome or performing or whatever it may be. And yeah, it's something like I get to do more of too, right? And is never ending. And I think getting to show up to those spaces and have people hold space for that is such a gift, because I could say, oh my gosh, I have all these crafts in the next room, but like, am I gonna go there? Maybe I will after this conversation, but likely, like, it wasn't on my agenda today, right? Of all the things I have to do or think I should do, right? But for me, I guess I kind of want to acknowledge like how it has been something with like getting more creative with my, like, having to cut out certain foods from my diet based on what it is my body needs most to feel nourished. I've gotten more creative with what I'm making. So looking at it in different ways, where are we maybe already um, playing, or how, where can it be like easiest for us to like change something a little bit or try something new. But it's definitely something I've seen, like being the fun auntie, who childless fun auntie, who last year I brought like I love making beaded bracelets as a kid, so I, like, in the pandemic, organized all my beads into this container. And so last summer, or last winter, I brought them with me every friend's house that I went to with kids, and we made these bracelets. And I remember one of my friends, her daughter, we finished the bracelet, and she looked and was just like so upset because she didn't like it anymore. For me to just tell her, like, that's cool, you get to change your mind, we get to recreate this. And I think she was just really, like, almost even shocked of like, oh, I get to try this again, right? It was kind of like, oh gosh, I'm stuck with this thing I don't like, right? So I think that really reminded me maybe how far I've come to, and giving, like, reflecting back to me that same permission I get to give myself of like, I get to change my mind. I can paint something, and if I hate it, I can paint right over it, right? Or I can, take pieces of something and recreate it into something else. So I love how, yeah, all those things also get reflected back to us through children, where we get to like be that safe space for them, to tell them that it's safe too, and we get to feel it in return. So it's exciting to have that reflection. So thank you for that question.
Thank you. No, thank you for sharing that piece. Just makes me think, especially with what both of you guys said, is that whole thing of like, oh, I don't have the right things, or what if I mess up? And it's like, as kids, we don't think about what if I mess up. Just think like, this is amazing. And then that ties in, Anna, with you talking in the beginning about that feeling grateful in those moments. And I think if we focus more on feeling grateful for what it is that we have, and we can create, it's almost like creating something out of nothing, and yet that nothing was something, and we just didn't think of it in that way. I think that was just beautiful how you both shared in your own unique way, but also it like tied in together. So thank you so much. My last question for the episode is, where do you see creativity going? because now we have social media and now we get to see people's art that we never got to see before, which then inspires so many other people to do things that they thought about, just like what we were saying before, that they said, oh, I can't do this or I shouldn't do this. But now, if you want to learn how to draw that person, or if you want to learn how to play that music, we've got social media, we've got YouTube, we've got things that allow us to not only inspire us, but teach us. So, where do you feel like creativity will go, especially with technology in the mix?
Good question.
It's a
Anna,
very good
you
question.
go first, or should I?
Yeah, I do think about it, right? Like the way that people can create now
Yeah.
is amazing. Like, and it's not just on paper, but it's also on digital. And I think the way that we continue to use it, it can be a little scary, I think, in times, especially when we have just did an episode talking about like technology and, how it ties into like the well-being. But then I also think that like technology right now, what I'm understanding by doing these episodes is that we're in a time where technology, we have to coexist together. And when we are curating our social media pages and just like the things that we see things that like are wow, like awe inspiring. And you would have never known like how many decades ago if we didn't have things like social media. But now I feel like the younger generation are finding ways to merge that together and create this like, I don't even know what kind of creativity it is, but like thinking, we would think outside of the box. And now it's like, well, we're not just thinking outside of it, we're thinking, how can we create the box? So that's my thought, I think, on like where it goes. And it excites me. It makes me, now I'm not a techie, but when I see it, I'm like, that's really cool. Or like if I'm able to see somebody doing something that I would have only thought about and you get to see it, you're like, wow, I never thought you could. And now I'm like, maybe I do want to try roller skating one day when I see people moving and doing their things. Maybe I do want to try and tackle whatever that art that I never thought that I could, when I see other people's art, I'm like, oh, I love color. I love this. Let me give it a shot without overthinking. But then now I feel like the next generation is like, we don't want to overthink. We just want to, it's whatever we feel is what's showing up. And then they merge technology together. I look forward to seeing where it goes.
Yeah, like some of the first things that came up for me just in the folks that I've worked with kind of in this space when it comes to showing up online and even my own journey to like just give myself enough curiosity and self permission to show up imperfectly online or build that safety around being seen and not being perfect or looking a certain way or whatever. When I think of social media, I think of the videos that I love the most are the people walking down the street in their sweatpants, sharing random thoughts, or like, just being so vulnerable and not afraid to just show up and say whatever random thing or to share their art or, this fun, exciting project that they've, like never done before. And somehow they're showing up and just doing it. So a lot of the like themes around that I do work with people are that fear of being seen or that comparison, right? Well, there's someone else doing this and like they're just so amazing at it and what if I'm not or what if I am, right? That fear of like being successful at something or the fear of failure. And so it's really interesting because it makes me think of there's something I've been thinking about doing and I see it a lot on TikTok now, thanks to Dochi, who everyone's finding her old videos on YouTube of the artist's way, her journey through the artist's way, and just how raw and vulnerable. And now she's like such an amazing and impactful artist and seeing more people starting to show up and share their journey of that, and it's something that I was like, oh, do I think I should do that, or is it something actually that feels super scary and uncomfortable to me, but like I know it would just like be this you know expansion beyond what I've ever experienced to this point. So I think it's really interesting and maybe that's something actually I can do from in Hira is like a little group folks who want to go through the artist way together. But I started it in the past and it was with, a group of folks online who we had this little Instagram group and it was really great. And for me, I felt like there was too much coming at me to kind of participate. So I removed myself and I took myself to the park and I kept doing some of the exercises, whatever I could. But for whatever reason, just feeling like I needed space to incubate on my own away from social media was a big part of that process. I didn't finish it, so that's why I want to come back to it. But I think there is definitely that invitation of, knowing that we can receive information, inspiration, we can share little bits and bobs of what we're doing, but like we also get to keep pieces for ourselves that maybe doesn't get shared online, or maybe not right in the moment, right? Going back to what Anna said about like being present, right? And just like being in the moment is a big thing, a big invitation and like self permission that I continuously want to give myself. But then also challenging that perfectionist of, is part of that not wanting to share until it's just right, or until it might be received in a way that allows me to be seen as a creative who's just like really good at what she does, and not, bringing in all the pieces that make us as humans really interesting and curious. So you've given me a lot to think about that. So thanks.
Oh, thank you. I love the way you worded everything. Yeah, we appreciate it. Thank you. Anna, what about you?
Yeah, that's a beefy question. Like I feel like my mind went to so many different areas. But I think I'll just share the one because I definitely agree with everything that Lauren said. With social media as well, like, you're seeing how someone else shows up and then how we show up and all of that. But I would like to just briefly touch on even, I think you said like the technology and creativity, like into the future kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I graduated with the graphic design and advertising diploma, and I remember even back then the teachers that we had even then were saying, we would always use pencil and paper, right? I remember even we would use like fruits and vegetables, a lot of things with our hands. Again, going back to senses. And I feel like in the future, and especially like, a collective like the Hira Collective, merging us and technology in the future, it's going to be a beautiful balance of those worlds of like touch, feel, and technology. I think right now we're at a place where like there is AI, right? And you can go in and try to create stuff. But there's such a difference when you can take a pencil with your sketchbook and draw something, and it might look horrendous, but you try again and you try again, comparing to like going to your laptop or your phone and trying to create something there. But I truly believe once we are able to balance both of these worlds, like the physical touch, going out into nature, picking up sticks, climbing trees, how am I going to create off of this? And then technology, society is just going to like, boom, it's just going to go crazy for sure. But that's what I'm seeing right now is even like again with some of the workshops that I do is like there's beauty in the technology that's coming out, and being able to create a certain way, but as adults and even teenagers we still struggle again with like the judging ourselves and the perfectionism. So how do we kind of get out of that box regardless of the tools we have to create? Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much. I do look forward to you guys collabing with something. It would be very interesting to see what could come.
Yeah.
The art that you continue to share, Anna, and the way that you have expressed it today is like a whole other way of looking at it. Painting isn't just putting something to canvas, but it's your entire energy and your soul putting something out into the physical. And to me, it's coming from within, but it's also coming from creator. And that is pretty amazing. So I look forward to seeing how you continue to share those gifts and your new gifts with so many people that connect with you. And Lauren, I learned so much about hypnosis. Like, honestly, I didn't really know that much. I knew, you know stuff, but like the way that you shared it, yeah, I'm with Anna. I want a book, right? I
Yeah.
feel, yeah, you shared it in a way that didn't feel professional, because I don't know why when I think of hypnosis, I think it's a very professional kind of thing, but you gave it in a way that's like, I'm an everyday person and I want to connect deeper to whatever it is. And sometimes, to be honest, we feel like we can do it on our own, but the truth is we can't. And trying different ways to connect to creator is pretty amazing. And the fact that you guys both offer unique and yet very comparable offerings and gifts is quite amazing. And I'm very thankful for this conversation and where it went. And I look forward to having many more conversations with you guys. I also look forward to whatever event you guys create together.
It's gonna happen.
I
Yeah,
definitely see it. Yeah, such great energy. So yeah,
we were
thank you
definitely
guys.
on this
This
call for a reason.
yeah, it was a really nice, like, the flow was really beautiful, but it both of your offerings and the energy that you bring, it complements each other. So like I totally understand that moment of being almost like hypnotized when you're creating something. And then like what you said, Lauren, Anna, when it comes out, you're like, oh my God, like now there's something on the canvas and I didn't even know, but then it starts to make sense. And also for me, because I'm all about like going inward, is to even recognize through hypnosis, I'm assuming, is that like where it's coming from, like being able to recognize it in those five
Yeah.
senses. So thank you so much because, yeah, the five senses is a really huge thing. And I hope everybody that was listening today will take the time to tap into that. I know I'm going to pay way more attention to my five senses after this conversation. So thank you guys so much once again. This is the Ultimate Human Experience Podcast. We are out. Peace.
Thank you.